Okay, we will continue with types of attributions. Types of attribution basically want to determine whether what cause of the problem, what cause of the things, whether it is whether it is personal or internal, or whether it is external. So there are three sources of information that we can use to decide whether the problem is caused by internal or external. So we look at the three factor: causing factor, distinctiveness, consistency, and consensus. So in terms of distinctiveness, for example, if manager behave in the same manner, let's say you see the manager and you think you observe that the manager behave in the same manner in other situations with other employees, not just with you, with other employees also the manager show the same manners, then distinctiveness is low. So when distinctiveness is low, it's normal to see you. That's mean it's not about when the distinctiveness is high, then it is about you. For example, here manager behave in the same manners, so same manners, that means distinctiveness is low because it's the same manners. But if the manager behave differently with you, not similar with the others, then distinctiveness is high. That's because of you. That's basically what it's meant. Consistency: if person acts the same way at different time in different situation, is called consistency. So consistency, their behavior is consistent from one different time to the other, from one situation to the other. So that's consistency is high. For example, if manager often asks you or other employees to see him, if they managers always ask employees to see them, that means consistency is high, then it's a standard. But if the manager didn't ask others, they just ask you, that is mean they center on you. This must be problem. Maybe the manager didn't like you, or manager try to find fault, or you having a problem with your work. So consistency is the consistent from one situation to the other, from one time to the other. If consistency is high, that mean the it's a standard nature if they want to see you, because they also see other employees. Let's say if they just call to see you but not other employees, then that will be the problem, because either the problem within you or the problem within the managers. That's what it said, consistency. Consensus: manager behave like other manager. So your manager behave like other manager, that's consistency is high. When consistency is high, consensus: managers behave like other managers. So this manager is behavior is the same as others managers. If manager is the only one with this behavior, so if the managers do not behave like other managers, then the problem, then consensus is low. So if your manager behave like other managers, then consensus is high. When consensus is high, it's just a work related, it's not related to you, or it's just external matter. But if your manager behavior is different from the rest of the manager, then it says consensus is low. There's something wrong with you. Either you have problem with your work, or there's a problem with the manager, or manager having problem with you. So that's why it said based on the three factor: consensus, distinctiveness, consistency. So we move to the attribution error and bias. So attribution people may have errors, may have bias, which relate to the faulty or incorrect interpretation. So there are few attribution errors or biases. First one is fundamental attribution error. Second one is defensive attribution bias. Third one just will hypothesis. So fundamental attribution error, when you face this, or when we face this fundamental attribution error, when we tend to overestimate internal or personal factor, when we underestimate the situation. So basically, we exaggerate, we tend to blame others more because of the internal factor, because the problem coming from the individual, coming from the personal factor. We tend to underestimate, we tend to do not really emphasize more when the problem is based on the situational. So basically, we tend to exaggerate or overestimate the problem when it is more internal than external. For example, if you look at this photo, let's say after you see this driver driving a bus, and then you see this driver while driving looking at the mobile phone, and then suddenly after that there's an accident happen. You tend to blame the driver because of his looking at the mobile phone while driving, isn't it? You tend to overestimate that internal, the personal factor, but you sometimes or we sometimes underestimate. Maybe there's a problem with the bus, or maybe there's a problem with the roads itself. You never know, but we tend to come to the judgment quite fast by blaming others based on the internal factor. That's what is meant by fundamental attribution error. So another thing is defensive attribution bias, where we tend to present good things because of us, bad thing because of others. So present themselves in the positive or good way, self-serving bias, also called a self-serving bias, when it's a tendency for individual to attribute their own success. For example, you got good result in your final exam. You tend to say that's because I study hard, I didn't sleep at night just reading, and then do my revisions. But when you fail, or when you got low mark, you tend to say that's because of that lecturer, or that's because of the questions too difficult, but the question didn't been taught in the class, for example. So that's why it said self-serving bias or defensive attribution bias. Just world hypothesis is actually blaming the victims, related also to the defensive attribution, where you tend to say just world. That means the good people will be we receive good reward, bad people will receive bad reward. So you tend to say, based on just world hypothesis, good thing happen to good people, bad thing happen to bad people. So for example, here I mentioned quote one of the example of just world hypothesis. A woman goes out to a club wearing stiletto, the stiletto, very high heel shoes, and a miniskirt with no underwear. She get pretty drunk and stumble home in the wrong direction. She end up lost in the bad neighborhood. She get raped, for example. Does society blame her in some way? See it as her fault? Was she asking for it? So let's say this kind of women wearing this kind of high heel, going out, got drunk going out, and then got raped, for example. So society tend to say that suit her because she asking for it, because that's what she asked when she wear those kind of dress with that kind of shoes and then drunk. So that's what is said by just world hypothesis, even though it's not true, even though it's not considered as a just, but what is meant by just world is good thing happen to good people. If you behave goodly, you a good manner, you will be you will expect to receive a good treatment. If you behave badly, you need to expect bad treatments received, because cause and effects. That's normally common sense. So perception in impression management is actually part of human behavior. We tend to maintain our positive image, to look good. It's a natural tendency of us. That's why we tend to have halo effects, physical appearance, attractiveness, and so on. This actually also can influence employee and customer perception to create favorable corporate image. That's why some organization they even send their employees for training to behave, and also to involve in impression management, how to portray a good image, so that it's actually good to attract the customer and others, suppliers and employees and so on. So impression management aims at reflecting positive perception and attitudes. These also can avoid attribution error and biases. There are methods to enhance impression formation, such as self-enhancing behavior, by improving physical appearance, by emphasize more on positiveness, avoid being negative, avoid indicating own faults, name dropping. We shouldn't blame others. We shouldn't pinpoint the names. And also enhancing other people and organizations, such as involve with other people, organization, try to make other feel good, and we need to be open and honest, be personal and intimate with people, and do not talks bad thing about them. So this actually could create good impression management in the organizations. Okay, that's it.